everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today I want to film a quick video and share with you a different way of doing swatches. So if you're familiar with my previous kind of swatching, I like to keep things nicely organized and use the different color wheels from my stamp sets, the color theory and color palette, and also use different elements to create as many different varieties of swatches, just because I really like to keep a memo of a color palette. Color palettes are super important for me, and so this is how I try to kind of record a certain color palette that I have used. Sometimes I work backwards. For example, I create a piece of art and then go ahead and record all the colors and art supplies that I've used. Or sometimes I put a limited color palette and then work from that limited color palette. So here is just a variety of different ways of doing swatches, and yeah, it's just fun in my opinion. Sometimes I line them out with a fine liner, and sometimes I just leave it like that, printed with a nude ink, which you can barely see, so it's just a helping line for you. So here I have the stamped out image, and then when you add watercolor, this is what it looks like. So you're not distracted by any black lines, but you can see enough to see the divisions of the sections that you need to add color in. So far I have Swatch Joy, Color Palette and Color Theory, and I believe all three are still available. I had a restock recently and they're available on my website, Alyona Creates, on my new online shop there, so check it out. And here are just a few examples what you can create with them. But when I was creating my latest stamp set, which is the Botanical stamp set, I have had this idea with not only creating clusters with it, but also somehow incorporating them into swatches. And you know me, I love my swatches, and so there are some bigger petals that you can just stamp as they are and create a nice large swatch like that and be coherent with it, so it would all look the same and neat. And then you could also do something a little bit more organic by creating clusters of leaves. And this is what I've done just now. So again, looking at this illustration, I quite like some of the color mixes I did, but it's sort of starting to fade away a little bit. So I had to think hard to remember what I did here to create some of these color mixes. And so because I don't want to forget it, I'm going to use this page, which was empty, and add the colors. So what I've done here, I've used 3 leaves from the stamp set, and I just basically stamped them to create a cluster of leaves. And you can do it organically if you want to, so you can change up the shapes or you can twist things around, but I kind of like this consistency, I don't know, something that is appealing to me. And then that gives me a nice curved line here to put through the title of the watercolors. And so I kind of like that look. Kind of makes it look more contemporary, I suppose, although contemporary is not the word I like to use here, but you know what I mean. It kind of looks fresh and new. So this is something I'm trying, and I'm going to leave them in this nude ink. The nude ink that I use is Distress ink by Tim Holtz, and it's Tattered Rose. I had this for years. It's not running out. This is literally like 5-year-old little ink pad. So it's lasting me a very good time. So here are the 3 petals that I used from the set. So I've used this petal right here, and this is also, by the way, available. The acrylic ink is also available on my online shop, so check it out if you're interested. These are great all over, like they just work with every single stamp available except for this large one. So that's the only one that's too small. Acrylic block is too small for the element, but every other, including the round element, they're all fitting nicely. So I designed it to work coherently with it. Okay, so this petal, and then I also used, let's see, is it this one here? And then I think this one. So that's the third petal. Yeah, so it's this one here. So these three petals, you can change things up, you can, you know, swap things around, do whatever you want, you do you. And basically now I'm going to go ahead and use the colors, which I think I use some of them straight from the pans or the tubes, and others are mixed in a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is, because I also have three petals, what I can do is I can create like a darkest saturated swatch, and then one where I use a little bit more water, and then quite a pale one where I use more water and less pigment. So that's the idea of this kind of swatch fest. So let's go ahead and look at the colors. So here we have Schmincke Quinacridone Gold Hue, which I believe I used right in the center of this flower. Then I have Core Transparent Pyrrole Orange, which I think was this color here, and then watered out. This is what we got. Here I have added a touch of Strawberry Velvet from my own palette, which is also available on my website. These are handmade artist grade watercolors. So this one has lovely Potter's Pink in there, which means it granulates and separates lovely. So it creates a more muted tone of a color. And then I think I also added it to Oprah Pink. So I'm not using Oprah Pink straight from the tube here, but I previously mixed it with a tiny bit of Strawberry Velvet. And then we also have the Chartreuse, which is also from my palette. And then finally, I believe it was the Chromium Oxide Green by Schmincke, which I either used as it is, as it comes, or mix something in. I'll sort of figure it out as I go. All right, so let's start with the Quinacridone Gold Hue, which is the fourth color here. Sorry if you hear any noise. It is Saturday I'm filming on, and someone decided to do their garden just now. A front garden or something, I have no idea. So anyways, we're going to start with a really saturated mix to begin with. And I'm just going to follow the line of the swatched image, like so. For this size, I would use, as in the size of the illustration or element that you have stamped, I would use basically a small brush. I wouldn't bother using a big brush, because then it would be hard to control things. So now into here I'm going to add like just a dollop. So I'm just dipping my brush into the water here, like so, and there's like a good drop of water, and I'm going to do that on the second, leaving a little gap so they're not touching, because we don't want things to just merge together and flow together as it is watercolor, so keep that in mind. So we have a lighter swatch right here. And now I'm going to wash off my brush fully and do the same thing and have like a really watery, very light version of it. And I think this makes the swatches look so neat. I haven't had time to share this technique with you when I first launched my Botanical set, because as you remember, it was all a bit chaotic. My Etsy shop, I had so many problems with it, and then I was setting up my new website and my new online shop. Then my parents came to visit for most part of April, and then it was the last few months, actually since March, the exhibition, it's been like a roller coaster. So hence why I haven't been able to share everything with you, but I'm hoping to do that now. So let's move on to Core Transparent Pyrrole Orange. Now in this case, I'm kind of thinking, because I have a variety of colors, whether I should do the mixes or just use the straight up colors. I think I'm just going to use the straight up colors and kind of make a note maybe somewhere else that those are the colors that basically I've mixed to create another color. Or I could just figure out, I mean, I remember now when I'm out, I would forget. So let's just create a really saturated, gorgeous color. And this, as you can see, at its most vibrant. Thinking of it, I think even into here I might have added a touch of strawberry velvet, just to take that edge of the vibrancy, because you can see there is, I mean, I can see that there is a little bit of something in there, and I think this is what I've done. It's been a long time ago now. Hence why it's always good to do these swatches soon after an illustration is finished. And I try to do it, but you know, life gets busy, and I try to do it whenever, if I haven't straight after. It's better than not do it at all. Okay, so here we go. So we've got this petal. So same as before, washing my brush out and a little puddle. Now with Core, you have to keep in mind that they have a patented ingredient which basically shoots the pigment across the paper, and it just moves everything else, and it's got great fluidity. So that pushed straight away into this puddle. So for me to achieve even a lightest color, I have to go into another part of the dish, literally, and just mix it up here on the spot. So that would be the lightest version. This particular orange is super bright, so I'm going to add even more water into this. It's a very, very vibrant orange, and if memory serves well, then this is my most vibrant orange in possession of watercolors. But basically, this is what it is. And then let's see, so the third one is Winsor Newton Opera Rose. I'm going to clean out the dish, possibly save some of this color, because I can't, you know me, I don't like throwing things away, so mostly I will clean it out. All right, so Opera Pink. This is Winsor Newton one. I mean, you can't really go wrong with Opera Pinks in my opinion. They're pretty much the same thing across all brands. I can't see much of a difference from what I tried anyway. So Opera Pink. Now Opera Pink is not Lightfast, so keep that in mind. It's great for sketchbook work, or if you're planning to just scan your artwork, then that's all fine. So if you're creating like prints or stickers or something like that. But if you are planning to sell originals, this is a color to avoid. And then I'm going to use even less pigment. And then give us a lovely, lovely wash. Like so. Okay, next color is my color, which I created, and it's the Strawberry Velvet. So here we go. Strawberry Velvet. As you can see, it's got that kind of like a muted look to it, and it reminds me of a wilted strawberry, hence why it's called Strawberry Velvet. So I'm going to go in quite a thick creamy mix. This is pigment separating color and granulating, so the best way to achieve those properties would be to use loads of water movement. So if it just sits static and it's quite a thick mix, you're not going to see the beautiful play of those properties. on paper. So now we're going to add more water, and here we should start seeing on this swatch more movement and more granulation. There we go, I can already see that. And even more water. This color is lovely to add a little bit of texture and to mute down your vibrant colors without dulling them down. So you can see this is not a dull orange, but from a fiery one, from this one, it becomes quite organic and quite interesting. It's got almost that kind of like a burnt, gorgeous caramel look to it. So going from here to there, we basically added some of this color to this color. And same thing with this Opera Pink as well, adding tiny bit of it. We're creating this pink. Okay, next color. It's my Chartreuse. So Alyona creates. That's the brand. Okay, so we've got my perfect Chartreuse. Wow, look at that next to Opera Pink. Match made in heaven. This is such an 80s color combo. I absolutely love it. Okay, so here we go. If you're new to my channel and you're watching for the first time, the reason I called my palette the Ultimate palette is because these are my favorite mixes. So these are not colors that don't exist except for Strawberry Velvet. That's my unique mix. The others I basically have tweaked to have my favorite tones of the colors. I always would in the past kind of mix a Chartreuse or a apple green or spring green or May green they typically called, with some yellows to get that glowy effect. And here, by creating my own watercolors, I have basically created the mixes that are perfect as they come out of the pan, and I love it. So then I'm gonna just make a really light watery wash here. So same goes for the Quinacridone Gold Deep and the Cobalt Teal, which has a lovely green tint to it, and then also the Gold Green Deep. Okay, so last one, Schminke Chromium Oxide Green. Let's swatch that out. So this one has the tendency to separate a little bit. So I'm just going to squeeze out a fair amount of it and then mix it together. So this color, it's interesting. I mean, I don't think this is the color. So it must have been something else, unless I added a touch of my, let's see, yeah, I think it could have been it. So that's it. So I think I added some of my Strawberry Velvet to it, and that's how I got it to look like that. Okay, so let's go with a thick swatch. Okay, and then I'm going to add a teensy bit more water. And now even more water, so hardly any. pigment in there. I love seeing the same color in 3 different varieties of the pigment load. Okay, so let me show you a close-up. Don't they look so gorgeous, these swatches? I actually love them. Alright, I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know how you like your swatches, whether you like them organic or hand-drawn or something that looks kind of precise every time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.